So here's the sitch on the ATL Boxscore podcast. Today we get into a Atlanta Braves profiles, players, and players because Braves are in spring training right now. Then we have Mr. Ned Kaish on the show to talk Duke, North Carolina, and anything else that's going on in the college basketball world. This is the ATL Boxscore podcast with Alex Berger, and you're listening to Pro Style Wednesday. With starting a new podcast, people ask me all the time, Alex, where do you record your show at? Do you do it at your house? No, I don't do it at my house because of just a lot of different logistical factors. The place that I do it at is actually a place called Spaces, Midtown East. And Spaces is a co-working center where I get my show recorded and I get other work done. Co-working has been one of these new phenomenons in the private business sector that has popped up recently. And Spaces also has another brand called Regis, which is more of a professional brand. Spaces is more for creators like myself. But to tell you more about these special brands in the business world is Mr. Steve Choi.
Thanks, Alex. I appreciate those kind words. We absolutely love having you and ATL Boxscore as part of our space. It's always great when we see you doing your work. But absolutely, Spaces and the Regis concept, we are both workplace providers here in the Atlanta area, but all around the world. We have over 250 Spaces locations worldwide, plus over 1,500 Regis locations. And what we're really here to do is just provide flexible options for any type of professional, whether you're an independent professional, creative, or if you're a large or small business. So we have several different types of options from small to large and memberships, part-time, full-time. So definitely come on out and check us out. Go ahead and look at the link on Alex's site and ask for Steve Choi. And if you ever come into one of our locations, let us know that Alex sent you or ATL Boxscore, and we'll go ahead and set you up with a free 5-day test drive.
Yeah, you can't beat that 5-day test drive. In those 5 days, you will know if Spaces or Regis is the right brand for you. And Spaces is all over the place. They're a little bit more limited, but they're in the main areas of the city. The one we are is right in the heart of Midtown near the Fox Theater. There's one at the Battery. There's going to be one opening up North Point Mall there. And there's also a location in Colony Square. So they are all over the metro area. At just about any major business building in the Atlanta area has a Regis in it. So just Google them. But Spaces and Regis and Steve Choi in particular is your place to do your business. Well, welcome back. Welcome back to Pro Style Wednesday here on the ATL Boxscore podcast. This is Atlanta's newest podcast, and be sure to check us out on social media. We are on all the social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Insta. Be sure to check us out there. And joining me today is Steve Choi in this segment. I'm Alex Berger, and there are a lot of things out there that are a lot of potential changes that are going on. Like right now, there's rumors that they want to change the Auburn-Georgia game to sometime in October or September. That's going on. The Alliance of American Football just got a $250 million bailout. So, and also too, they're fixing on changing some things with the College Football Hall of Fame, getting a little bit of a facelift. I don't see why it needs one, but I guess you need to keep up with the times and everything. So buddy, how are you doing today, man?
I'm doing good, man. It's cold and wet out there, but
Windy and
windy.
very English weather going on right now here in Atlanta.
Yeah. Here's the thing.
Here's one of Steve's. For those that don't know, one of Steve's counterparts was actually British, and that's something that person would say. I'm just gonna put it that way.
Yeah. No, but it's good. It's been good day. Good day in the neighborhood. It's hump day.
It is hump day.
Mark.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's hump day, and can't wait for the weekend, I guess.
Yeah.
It's been a slow sports week.
It has been a slow sports week.
No NBA games because of the All-Star break.
Right. Like I said, a lot of potential things
College
going on. I mean,
Bruce Bochy announced that he'll retire after this season.
Who?
Bruce Bochy, who is the San Francisco Giants manager.
Oh, okay.
So that's kind of a bummer, but he definitely deserves it. He's got 3 World Series championships under his watch, so he'll definitely probably make it to the Hall of Fame.
So that's okay. So that happened on the other side of the country.
That did.
Well, right here,
Steve Choi is the guy that brings West Coast news to
the West Coast flavor.
That's West Coast news to the ATL Boxscore for all you Bay Area transplants here, and I know there's a lot of us here.
Is there a lot?
Oh yeah,
like 10% of the population.
I don't know about 10%,
5%,
but it seems like every time I don't know what the percentage is, but every time I bump into somebody, or I'll bump into a Bay Area transplant at least once a week.
Okay, maybe you guys should start your own club.
I think there is a club out there.
Oh, a Cali club.
Yeah, Bay Area.
You also tell me too that there's a lot of other underground clubs going on, and
that's right. I belong to a couple of them
and stuff like that. I'm just gonna put it. Yeah, I'm not really gonna go too much into that. But yeah. It seems like there's a lot of moving pieces going on just in Atlanta sports in general. But no, nothing to really report on. Yeah,
mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Saw Freddie Freeman on during spring training. He was talking about how some of the big marquee names.
He's a Cali guy too.
Is he?
He's a Cali guy. Yeah,
He was talking about how some of the big marquee free agents still haven't been signed, like Bryce Harper and Machado, who actually got signed yesterday.
I saw something on Bryce Harper that it seems like he's just gonna stick to the East Coast because it's the Phillies now, New York, and the Nationals have somehow got back into the conversation.
Philly, New York, Yankees?
Yeah, Yankees.
And then the Nationals again, huh? Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, I mean, only Bryce Harper knows what he wants, huh?
Or maybe he's just trying to skip out on spring training. Kind of like, how Brett Favre did back when he apparently retired and then got to play for the Vikings for a season.
Nice.
That's exactly what he did. He skipped out on training camp and just went straight to, I think he did at least 1 or 2 preseason games. But he skipped out on the grind of training camp and just got right to the nitty gritty.
Yeah, it makes sense.
But right now, I thought too that I saw something. I got an email actually because I'm a Chick-fil-A member, or I have the app. So if you have the app, I think you're like a Chick-fil-A member. That's at least what I'm calling it. I think they call it something different. But anyways, since I have the app, they send me emails about stuff. And since Chick-fil-A is very prominent here in Atlanta, and it's a place that I frequent a good bit, and I'm pretty sure if we had a consensus here that if I said raise your hand if you go at least 4 times a week out of a room of like 100 or 200, majority of the people in that room would have their hands raised.
Wow.
So, but Chick-fil-A actually sent me an email that I thought was pretty interesting, that they have their most ordered menu items of 2018.
Wow.
And I think for some people it's going to surprise you. I know that it's like usually the stuff I order, well, stuff I order for lunch is in this, but stuff I order for breakfast isn't really in this category. So let's just go down the list.
Okay.
So with all emergencies being avoided, at number 10, we have the spicy deluxe sandwich, which is the...
one of my favorites.
Oh, you like that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I love spicy chicken.
So for people who aren't familiar, it's the it's like the chicken club sandwich with the lettuce, tomatoes, and pickles, but it's the spicy chicken version of it.
Right.
With pepper jack
It gives
cheese.
you your choice of cheese.
Right.
It's delicious.
I need to try that one day. I'm not a big fan of like extremely spicy foods.
It's not that bad, but it's good.
Okay. Another thing, a lot of people are hung up on this. Their chicken biscuit is at number 9. And
I'm not a fan of biscuits in general.
I'm a fan of biscuits. I'm not a fan of like chicken on a biscuit.
It's so dry.
I could see that. Yeah. Well, then at 8 you have chicken strips. You also have
Good.
yours at 7 that have the hash browns.
Oh,
I
love the hash browns.
Yeah, you're all over those hash browns.
Those hash browns are the bomb.
I
like hash browns anywhere, but Chick-fil-A hash browns are really solid. Burger King hash browns are good.
Mm-hmm. I would say for like fast food hash browns, they're really good.
Arby's
My
has really good potato cakes that are sort of like hash brown.
I'll try that, but my favorite though hash browns are Waffle House hash browns.
Oh yeah, but those are legit hash browns though.
Yeah. You have after hash browns, you have lemonade at 6. You have iced tea at 3. You have the chicken sandwich coming in here at number 4.
Okay,
on this list.
Makes sense. I haven't heard of salad yet, so a salad must be on its way, right?
Maybe this might be the wrong list.
Oh wow.
So Chick-fil-A staple, what they promote, is at number 4.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
it's not bad.
But still, like that's what you hang your hat on. That's like their Big Mac.
right.
Like
that's the Whopper. Yeah.
Yeah. Their most requested food item is at number 4.
Yeah, true. That's interesting. So what's number 3 then?
Chicken nuggets is at number 3. Okay, I can see that.
Because you got a lot of
you attract
grown
a lot of kids.
adult kids.
True. You have a lot of hipsters now that
I love their chicken nuggets.
I'm starting to become more of a strips guy.
Strips are good.
Yeah, starting to go past
the nugget phase.
Yeah,
the nugget phase of your life.
I've loved like McDonald's chicken nuggets. That's like the first thing I would always eat before I start eating a hamburger.
I haven't. I've just now stepped back into the tater tots phase of my life.
Tater tots are coming back.
Grew out when when you were a kid, tater tots were the only thing you would get during lunch.
Right.
And so they kind of phased out. You grew up into French fries. Now they're coming back, and they're delicious.
So,
okay, number 1.
Number 2.
Where we at?
Soft drinks.
That's kind of lame.
That is, but I mean,
they should take out the drink portion of that.
But everyone orders it too. Kind of like they ordered the number 1.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, drinks come with stuff.
Right. So do the number 1 item, which is there. Are you ready? Steven.
Did I guess it?
I don't know. We're just going to have to find out. I don't know.
What is it?
It is there. Let me cue this up.
From my mouth, it will all be worth it tonight. When I go to sleep, I dream about them continuously. They're fries. I can look away and fries just make my day.
So it's their waffle fries.
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 I love it.
Off your song, too. Off your remix of your song.
I love the fries. Their fries are good.
Their fries are good. They're good from a standpoint to me that they're not going to give you a heart attack any day soon.
Right.
Really good fries will do that to you.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Really good fries will clog your arteries. But to get something fast food, to get something that's more of a healthier fry, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Healthier, fries, and get your potatoes and your salt in. Like, Chick-fil-A is the thing to go, but I'm not dying to get Chick-fil-A fries.
I don't blame you.
So that is Chick-fil-A's most requested menu items of 2018. So right now we're going to actually talk about sports, and we're going to go into a Braves profiles and Atlanta Braves profiles, players and players. Well, right now we are going to get into a Atlanta Braves profile, players and players. And by the way, too, before we totally jump into this, that I just want to mention too, that song was from Anthony Adams, called Fries, which is a YouTube thing, and I know that song isn't labeled with copyright stuff. So from your artist, Steve, what was the dude's name? Bazzy, mine. So that's where we got that. That's where we got this thing from that we were doing. So yeah, it's fun. It's fun. It is pretty hilarious. But let me pull up my notes real quick. Yeah. So now we're talking Atlanta Braves, or Braves profiles, players and players. And we are getting into what this segment is we're going down the list. Well, not necessarily a list, but we're talking about all the players and the players, like people in the front office. There'll be players, like the GM Alex Anthopoulos and the manager Brian Snicker. I think we're going to talk about them closer to when the season kicks off. But I wanted to go this week with a kind of under the radar player with Johan Camargo, which Johan has been a very under the radar type of player. He is one of those players that in baseball he's going to be the unsung hero because he plays third base and he's not a shortstop. Like, just in baseball in general, like the people that get a lot of credit that play defense are the shortstops and the outfield, because they're the ones making the like shortstops usually make those double plays or a part of those double plays, and the outfield usually just get like those ridiculous catches, like Bo Jackson climbing the wall in Kansas City. But with Johan's made some circus catches at third base, where if a guy's on deck and he hits a ball out that way, usually when you hit a ball to the third baseline or somewhere in that close to the outfield, you're usually going to get on base on first, because there's no way the guys out there can throw it down to first. But with Johan Camargo covering third base, you hit a ball out there, that guy can just boom, quick release, like down to the first base line, which he got a lot of guys out that way last year. But at the same time, it's not a home run. It's not a triple play. It's not something that looks so spectacular, but it gets guys out. It gets you out of, it gets you out of the inning if you need to get out of the inning. So having a player like this is going to be really critical for the Braves going down the stretch. And it's funny looking at his highlights too. The times he's hit home runs have been in away stadiums. Like when he's on bat, the funny thing is, like, he hits home runs. Last year he hit home runs on the road, and then he got RBIs at home when he was at bat. So this is a wild card too in the Braves lineup. The thing about, and by the way, he got 76 RBIs last year. So that's more than good. And he had 19 homers. Obviously, if you can keep the on-base percentage the same this year, obviously with the Braves offense, you would like for them to be successful, for them to overcome a team like the Dodgers from last year, you want the home runs to go up more. So if he gets just as many home runs and he gets in the 20 range, it's been a good season for him statistically. And hopefully that'll translate over to the Braves. But the thing about it is he's only on a 1-year contract, which, again, there's not that many Braves players that I want to see go, and maybe this is why I'm not that big of a baseball guy. But I feel like with Johan's case, that I feel like the Braves could possibly use him as a bargaining chip to get some better talent. I don't want him to be traded or anything like that, but I think this could be the possible guy that you get because he at the same time, I don't feel like he's totally a lock like Ender is. But at the same time, Nick Markakis last year, a lot of people thought that at the trade deadline, the Braves were going to get rid of Nick Markakis, but he actually had a monster season. And so they kept him. So I'm hoping the same thing can happen here, that you keep this guy at third base, because this guy I feel like is a weapon for you. He's just extremely under the radar, which I feel like is good for the Atlanta Braves. I feel like it's good for the Braves fan, or just the Braves organization as a whole, that you have guys like this on your roster that can compete. But obviously you're eventually going to have to pay him, and he's eventually going to have to be somewhat of a lock for a guy that you could put in, that you can nail down for a 5-6 year contract. But I don't know if the Braves have enough capital to do that. So that's why I say he's most likely going to be a bargaining piece. But hopefully, I mean, I'm always optimistic. I always, like I said, I always hate when you have to get rid of players like this. I have no problem getting rid of players that are terrible, but getting rid of players like this, I think would be a bad choice for the Braves organization going forward. But I like Johan. I like what he could bring to the table, and this is another guy that it's like could possibly be an unsung hero. Well, he's an unsung hero on defense because you have a guy like Ender Inciarte who's won a couple of Gold Gloves. So, with that being said, I hope that Johan Camargo could stay a Brave for the whole 2019 season and possibly get a 2 to 3 year contract with the Atlanta Braves where they pay him good money. So that's been the Braves players. That's been the Braves, Atlanta Braves profiles, players, and players. Players. So with that being said, now we're about to get into some college basketball talk because you got the big game, Duke, North Carolina, this weekend, and who better to talk about it than Mr. Ned Kaish. So Ned Kaish is coming on the show next. Right now we're going to have Ned Kaish come on the show, but before we do that, if you guys like what you've heard so far, you like that we're different than Sports Talk Radio, which we are, be sure to hit the subscribe button wherever you found this podcast, because we're everywhere, or we're in the main places that podcasts are offered. And they're offered a lot of places, but the main staples are Google Play and Apple or iTunes, excuse me. So be sure to hit the subscribe button because that'll help us out. Also, too, where we our hosting platform for our podcast is on Podbeam. So if you're familiar with Podbeam, just be sure to hit the subscribe button because we definitely want to get you guys and get you the ATL podcast as much as you ATL Boxscore podcast as much as you want it. So be sure to hit us up. And also, too, like I said, we are on social. We are on all the social media platforms, the main 3 social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, and Insta. So be sure to hit us up there. Also, too, with iTunes, there is a rating system with iTunes. So if you feel like we deserve a 5 stars, which I hope that you could see that. You could see how much effort and work we put into the show. So just give us I hope that you can give us that 5-star rating. So with that, we're going to have here is my conversation with Ned Kaish. Now we just want to bring on Ned Kaish to the show here on the ATL Boxscore podcast. And I know Ned's really excited about what's going on tonight because we are recording on a Wednesday, just to let you guys know. So this is the preview up to the Duke, North Carolina game. So if you're listening to this on a Thursday, then this stuff's going to be a little bit outdated, just to put that out there. But big game with Duke, North Carolina, and I think right now you're just you have your fingers crossed that you hope that it's like another number one doesn't go down in less than 3 days.
Yeah, absolutely, and I'm hoping that it'll be a blowout for Duke, so I don't even have to stress over it all night. But the way this series goes, that's not too likely.
Right. Now, I just want to, before we get into that game, I just want to touch on what happened last night, Tuesday night, Super Tuesday, because you had Kentucky and Tennessee play close games. Also, Purdue and Indiana. Looking at the scores right now, and also too Maryland, Iowa. So it's you had a lot of close games, but it's like these games really weren't on the blip I should say, are not really, at least in this part of the country, these games probably aren't that interesting for people.
Right. I think, like you said, the Kentucky-Tennessee scores were a little bit surprising. I mean, Kentucky blew out Tennessee on Saturday at home, which I know shocked a lot of people. I think some people thought, Kentucky may have a little bit of a letdown game, especially on the road at Missouri. They ended up winning by a handful, and it wasn't really too much in doubt, but Missouri played pretty well in the second half. And then Tennessee, kind of sneaking away from Vanderbilt was a little bit of a surprise, especially for Tennessee being at home. You thought they'd bounce back from that loss and play, out of their minds. They only scored 58 points, and they average up around 80 or 85. So that was a little bit of a surprise.
Do you think that game for both of these teams, though, for Kentucky and Tennessee, just took a lot out of them?
Yeah, I think for Kentucky, certainly, especially because they're young, and just the emotions of that game, especially at home. I definitely thought Tennessee, with their veteran presence and coming off, only their second loss and kind of a rivalry game, would respond better, especially being home. And some of that is credit to Vandy. I know they're winless in the conference, but they don't get blown out in a lot of games. They just don't quite have the guys to win these games. So I think the Tennessee closeness versus the Kentucky closeness was a little more surprising. And then just a couple other games, like you said. Outside of the South, the Big Ten and the Big 12 maybe aren't the biggest news, but Purdue winning was pretty big because Michigan State's lost now 2 starters, so who knows where they're going to end up. Michigan, is a lot of people have questions about them, so if Purdue could keep winning and win the Big Ten, they could end up with a 2 or 3 seed, which I think was surprised a lot of people who haven't been keeping up with college basketball. The Maryland-Iowa game, that was, another one where kind of the winner of that one was going to give themselves a good chance in the Big Ten to win that conference in the regular season. And then Iowa State losing to Baylor was a little bit surprising. I think that'll hurt Iowa State's resume come tournament time, especially because it was a home game for Iowa State. But they're still, easily in the tournament. Just their seeding may affect a little bit.
Gotcha. Well, since we kind of talked about the Tennessee-Kentucky game, I don't really want to spend too much time on that, but I just want to know, what's more surprising to you? Kentucky blowing out Tennessee, or that now at McDonald's you have a Big Mac with bacon on it?
Oh, man, that's a tough one. I
because
think the blowout.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, buddy.
I think the blowout was a shocker. I don't think anybody was shocked that Kentucky won, especially after they lost at home midweek and then they were playing Tennessee at home. But just, how much of a domination it was. I was actually calling the high school basketball game in the first half, so I didn't get to watch the game until the second. And I turned it on, and I was wide-eyed as could be, shocked with the way it looked. Tennessee kind of tried to make a run there midway through the second half, but Kentucky put the clamps down, played well. P.J. Washington was an absolute beast. And, I think the result wasn't a surprise, but the score was a surprise.
I loved it how you just shift back to sports, even though I was trying to throw you off a little bit. But that was a big surprise to me this past weekend, seeing, because it's like something with Big Macs and stuff like that. I didn't think they'd ever change something like that. But yeah.
Yeah, but it's bacon, It's bacon, so it makes everything better.
They finally gave in. That's the thing. That's the thing with me. That's the most surprising about this whole thing. They finally gave in to bacon. Because I don't think that recipe has been changed for forever. So.
I guess the people finally spoke.
Yeah, probably. Or they gave in because all these other burger places were killing them. So, but back to college basketball, and let's just dive into what's going on tonight, because this North Carolina team looks okay, and I guess if you're a North Carolina fan, you're hoping this game kind of comes close. But at the same time, the way this rivalry's gone, a lot of times in like the first game, that it's like you usually get some sort of upset, or at least that it's like this series always seems to be split either way. And right now, Duke is just on fire, and Zion Williams looks like he could be the next LeBron James. So I just want to know, from a North Carolina perspective, what do you have to do to stay in this game?
I think the first thing is withstand a couple runs from Duke, because with the game being at Cameron, when they go on a run and Cameron's rocking, it's a really tough place to play. And the teams that can go into Cameron and win, or at least give themselves a chance to win, are the teams that, when Duke goes on a 10-2 run or a 12-4 run, those are the teams that can regroup and go on a little mini 6-0 run themselves right after that, to keep themselves in the game and to keep the crowd out of the game. So I think that's one thing. Generally the older teams are the teams that can do that. Kenny Williams and Luke May are both seniors who start for UNC. So they've played in Cameron. They know rocking environments. They've had to deal with it. So I think, those two guys are going to be big just for keeping, all the young guys calm. And, another thing is just, getting back on transition and defense for them, and not letting Zion and RJ Barrett and Cam Reddish, throw down in transition, throwing alley-oop to each other, and really get the crowd into the game. You've seen this year a couple times when teams really focus on getting back on transition defense, it's tough for Duke, to get in their flow, but also just to get the crowd into the game, to get their bench into the game, to get, the energy Duke wants. So I think that's a big thing. Now, UNC plays super fast. They like to get that ball out of the hoop after a bucket and get down court as quick as possible. So, with that pace, they're likely going to give up some transition. So, it's going to be a high-scoring game. It's going to be up and down, no doubt. So, that would kind of be, I think, the first key for UNC, though, going into Duke, is just making sure they can survive the crowd, survive a run.
With Zion Williams, and I saw a clip from Roy Williams' press conference, which I think he's one of the most – in big game situations where you feel like he has a lot of pressure, he can come off as the most laid back guy. I really like that about his personality, but he's going to have to stop Zion Williams, and you really don't stop a player like that. You slow him down. So I just want to know, how do you think North Carolina could possibly slow him down?
He's kind of the X factor. When you look at RJ Barrett and Cam Reddish and Trey Jones, the other Duke freshman, UNC matches up with those guys well. And one thing that I think one way UNC matches up well with Duke that a lot of other teams don't is their length. Kobe White, their starting point guard, is 6'5". Kenny Williams, their shooting guard, is 6'4". Then you got 6'8", 6'9". Even the backup guard is 6'7". So I think that size and that length can play a factor with just being able to, as soon as Zion catches the ball, harass him, or even, with your 6'5" and 6'7" point guard, being able to pressure Trey Jones, Duke's point guard, is only 6'2", and see if you can disrupt him and make it difficult for him to get the ball into the post to Zion. Because, one thing we know about Zion is, within the 5-on-5 half-court offense, he's not generally going to break a guy down from the dribble, behind the three-point line. He wants to catch the ball in the post. He wants to make his quick spin move. He wants to grab an offensive board. He can get out in transition or on the floor. But if you can make Zion a half-court 5-on-5 player and keep him out of the paint, make him, handle the ball, have to drive to get to the hoop, I think that's your best chance of slowing him down. But, that's not really his game. So, if he can play his game, he's not going to go outside his comfort zone.
Now, on Duke's side on their side, Do you feel like they have to establish like a 20, 30-point lead going into halftime?
I think, I wouldn't say that because my biggest question with this Duke team in this game is, are they going to be maybe a little bit too up for it or too excited? And that's something you can definitely do as a young player in a big-time game, especially, Duke UNC in your home gym, is you can always be too excited. And you can think, let's blow them out by 20 or 30, like you said, in the first 10 minutes. And when you do that, sometimes you start playing out of style. You're not playing your rhythm. You're not playing your game. Then all of a sudden you're down, 6 or 8 before you even know what happened to you. So, I think for Duke, it's going to be important for those freshmen to just come out and play their game. They have pretty much all year. Obviously, the first part of the Louisville game and the first part of the Gonzaga game were very un-Duke-like, but otherwise, these freshmen have been very comfortable in their roles. Duke's bench guys are very comfortable in their roles. Their older guys come in and play, maybe 7 minutes one game, maybe 22 minutes the next game, but they play their roles really well. And I think the older guys allow the younger guys to be themselves, which makes Duke, who they are.
Do you feel like there's any pressure with this Duke program since they're number one right now?
I kind of think there's been the pressure all year. Everybody kind of expects them to win the national championship. And, the way Duke plays, it seems like they don't feel the pressure. And I think part of that is playing with Coach K, and when he tells you, don't worry about it, I'll handle the media, I'll handle all that. Guys believe him, and guys trust in him, and it allows them to play their game and be themselves. So, is there pressure? No doubt. Everyone's going to watch these Duke UNC games. Everyone's going to watch, any game Zion plays in. But at the same time, I just think they're so talented that they don't worry about that. They just worry about trying to win every single game and get to the national championship.
Could you see this series being split?
Yeah, absolutely. We've talked about it. UNC has been getting better as the year has gone on, and when you play in a game, in a place like Cameron, and then you play in a place like the Dean Dome, those are tough crowds, tough environments to go in and win. So, I still think Duke's more talented, but it's not that UNC is not talented. I just don't think they're as talented. So I could definitely see, I could see UNC winning tonight. I wouldn't put any money on it, but they have the talent to. When you kind of look at Duke's schedule so far, you feel like there's only maybe 3 to 5 teams that you feel like, oh, this team could come in and beat Duke. And UNC is one of those teams. And so in a rivalry game, anything can happen. The way these two coaches know each other and know the way they like to execute and game plan and change stuff game to game. If Roy Williams comes out with the right game plan, it's going to give UNC a chance. We heard Coach K talk about, Chris Mack at Louisville's game plan and how that gave Duke fits for that first half and the first part of the second half. So it can definitely split. I have no problem saying that because, when you play at a place like a Dean Dome, it's tough to win for away teams.
You're right about the home field advantage, and I thought it was interesting that you talked about that North Carolina could possibly come out with a victory, even though right now ESPN on their winning percentage thing online has Duke at 81.2%, and you have North Carolina at 18%. That's a pretty big difference right there. So I'm just talking about pressure and obviously, like, the way Duke's playing right now, there's an expectation that you take care of these big games.
Right. And, Duke is a 9-point favorite, according to Vegas. So when you kind of look at the favorite and the win probability, I think that is less of pressure on the team that's favored. I think it's more extra motivation for the team that's the underdog. I think if you're UNC and someone says, hey, Vegas has you as a 9-point underdog and ESPN has you as an 18% chance to win, you're kind of like, what the heck? Like we're UNC, we're the number 5 or number 8 team in the country. I mean, why are they saying we have a less than 20% chance to win in any game we play in? So I think more for UNC, that's the motivation than pressure for Duke to feel like, oh, we're so favored to win, we have to win this game.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I think for like Duke North Carolina games, the atmosphere is I feel like just a little bit mild. That these two teams hate each other, but at the same time, I don't feel like this year's teams like have any animosity towards each other.
Yeah, that's kind of been a topic of discussion, especially in the one and done era. That it's hard to really build the true rivalry. But at the same time, I mean, you've got guys like Grayson Allen who were there for 4 years, who UNC fans hate, and you got guys like Luke May and Kenny Williams who've been at UNC for 4 years that Duke fans are tired of. So I still think it's there. The fans still don't like each other at all.
Right. And they're never going to.
Right. And in the past there have been scenes where guys are getting bloody and, it gets chippy. But in general, the players in this series aren't, really getting after each other, cheap stuff late, throwing elbows. It's really the fans that get after it. And I think the players, appreciate that and want to win these games, for their fans.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Let me ask you this, since you're a Duke fan, and I'm just putting you on the spot here. What do you like and what do you dislike about this rivalry?
The only thing I dislike about the rivalry, I think, is when UNC wins.
That's fair.
But my father went to Duke, so I've been in the rivalry since I was born. I went to college in the state of North Carolina, so I was, immersed in it for 4 years every time the teams got together. But I think it's just the way that, it's such a big deal in the state. It's kind of like in Auburn, Alabama, where, you pick one side or the other, and each side hates each other. And if you don't pick a side, both sides hate you. So that's kind of what makes it cool is when these two teams get together, there's an entire state watching and everybody's cheering for one team or cheering for the other. And that's a pretty cool thing about it. And I think even cooler is just really how close it is. I mean, they show all the stats about, the last, 8 games that both teams have won 4 times and the score differential has been 2 points total. And so it's crazy that it's such year in and year out, such a competitive series. I mean, I know Duke maybe has gotten a little bit the better of it in the recent years, but it's not like Ohio State, Michigan is right now, where you just expect Ohio State to win every single year. I mean, any time one of these teams wins, no one is like super surprised that they won, because it's such a big part of, the area, the community, and really college basketball.
Right. I'm assuming it's like every other rivalry too, that it's like there's a lot of just nervousness and nerves and animosity towards them, but it's like, and I'm assuming that it's like when the game tips off tonight, that this is probably going to be like just straight up just nervousness for 2 hours. But then it's like you're going to feel good if you come away with a win, or you're going to feel terrible if you come away with a loss. So I'm assuming when you're on the winning side that there's a lot of relief and joy that comes with it.
Yeah, no doubt. And unlike football, these teams do play twice. So, if your team loses, you get the chance to get some revenge. Now, if you lose the second one, you get swept, and you're going to have just a miserable next, 12 months or whatever it is till they get back together. But, it's just kind of funny with these fans, too. There's some fans who want to go out to the bar and drink and be with a bunch of Duke fans, and there's fans that want to go to a bar and be with both fans, and there's people who just want to sit at home and just on their couch, and they're just so locked into the game. So it's just kind of cool to see all the different ways that fans want to take these games in.
Right. Right. What are you looking forward to with tonight?
I think I'm looking forward to see how Roy Williams tries to play Zion Williamson. He's never really been a guy that gets away from traditional man-to-man too much. But maybe, if they throw a zone to try to, get Williamson a little bit off and the Duke team a little bit off, or if they try to double him every time he catches the ball in the post. So I think the way they play Williamson is going to be key, because when you look at all the other Duke starters and guys who contribute, and you look at the UNC guys who start and contribute, they match up really well. And the biggest factor, much like it has most of the year, is just there's not many guys who can match up with Zion Williamson one-on-one. So I think the way they play him is going to be huge. I think role players are going to be a big factor. For Duke, you look at guys like Jack White or Javin DeLaurier or Marquise Bolden. Can they make an impact? Can one of them go for 10 points and 8 rebounds and make a difference? And on UNC, can Leaky Black, their backup guard, come in and score 12 to 15 points? Can, Nasir Little, who's been a little banged up, is he going to be able to play? Is he going to play at a high level? So, even Seventh Woods, who's one of their more veteran guards who gets on the court some, can those guys get in the game and, like we said, put 8 to 15 points on the board at the right time, hit some big shots, and change the momentum of a game?
Right. Now, just want to end the conversation kind of talking about the locals. I was pretty locked into that LSU, the LSU Georgia game this past
I
weekend.
almost called that one. I almost called it.
You almost called it?
I almost called that up, I think, last week on the show. I thought that LSU's coming off their big win over Kentucky. It might be a letdown game for them in Georgia. Almost.
But I felt pretty optimistic going away from that, just because it's like, I know that this is a first-year head coach, and taking over a program like Georgia, which is close to the bottom when it comes to talent, that I'm just like, you know what? The next year or the next couple of years, they won't lose a close game like this, because they shot themselves in the foot. And I don't know if that's because of talent or they just don't have enough depth, because I think one of Georgia's problems is that they don't have enough depth. And because of that, you have to leave guys in there that are just exhausted and they make stupid mistakes.
Yeah, I think another factor for Georgia is, they don't seem to have a true point guard. And I know, what's his name? Hightower starts at point guard for him, but he doesn't really generally kind of do what a lot of point guards does with getting the offense organized and creating shots for other people. So when you get into a game late and you need a bucket or you need a guy to create for your team, Georgia wants to go to their big guys, and sometimes that's a lot tougher to get the ball into your big guys, especially if teams know you want to go in there and they can double the post or front you and really make it difficult. So I think, some of these guys Coach Crean has coming in are going to be able to do that, create shots late in games, be able to get in the paint, kick it out to shooters to make a big three when you need it. So I just think, like you said, they're lacking depth and they're just missing a couple crucial pieces to be successful.
But yeah, I watching that LSU game, I'm just like, this would be a little bit different if you had a little bit more talent on that team.
Right.
But also, too, at least they're not like Georgia Tech right now, who's fighting the flu bug and had like 2 or 3 guys on their team with the flu that they had to actually play against, especially during that Virginia Tech game that they played recently. And now it's like Tech's facilities have to be just like scrubbed down and quarantined and everything like that, and all people have to be on medication. That's why I read in the AJC this morning. So what's your take on all that, hearing all that stuff?
I think it's just kind of the perfect storm with the way everything else has gone this year for Georgia Tech. They've lost 7 in a row, 9 out of 10, 10 out of 12. It just doesn't seem to be getting a lot better. And I know that was a tough stretch, and there were some difficult road games in there, but I mean, really none of those games were particularly close. They hung around with Virginia Tech for a little while, but Virginia Tech's missing their star guard, which is really affecting their ability to score and create offense. So I don't really know what to think about where Georgia Tech's going to go. I think if you want to be successful, you do need to give Pastner, 2 to 3 more years. Let him get some guys in. Let him figure out how to recruit to Georgia Tech, who to recruit to Georgia Tech, and then, let him start to build something up. Because I think if you scrap it after this year, and you keep trying to, give coaches 3 or 4 years to figure it out, like they did with Brian Gregory. And I'm not sure Gregory was a great fit. I think Pastner is a better fit. But if you don't give these guys enough time out of school, that's tough to recruit to, like Georgia Tech. You may catch, magic in a bottle every now and then, but it's never going to be a consistent thing that they want it to be.
Mm-hmm. Before we let you go, though, what are some games that you're watching this weekend outside? Well, yeah, what are some games you're watching this weekend, this Saturday?
Yeah, SEC country, Tennessee taking on LSU. We saw LSU was legit knocking off Kentucky. Can they do it again against Tennessee? And if they can, LSU's going to have a great chance to win the SEC, especially because Kentucky and Tennessee will play each other again, and one of them will drop another game. A couple games in the ACC, Virginia, Louisville. Again, that's just a little more for tournament seeding for Virginia to hopefully stay within that 1 seed. And, if Louisville can win, maybe get in that 4-5 seed range. Duke, Syracuse. Syracuse plays Louisville midweek, so both those teams have tough, Wednesday, Saturday games. FSU, UNC, again, another game that's going to, I think, have an impact on not only the ACC final standings, but the tournament seeding. And then the last one would be Texas Tech and Kansas. I know it's Big 12 country, a little bit out of our range, but, both teams that are in the top 15. Kansas starting to play better. They've won or tied 14 straight Big 12 regular season championships, and they're in second place right now. So this would be a huge game for them to pick up to hopefully keep that streak alive. So I know there's a couple others, but it's a good weekend of college basketball for sure, and a weekend that could affect where people end up come March.
Right. Doesn't seem like a monster weekend, but it seems like a good enough weekend to see if teams are either going to slip up or maintain dominance. So where can we reach you on social media if we want to partake in the Duke, North Carolina conversation, or just get your thoughts and opinions about other things going on in college basketball?
Yeah, you can find me on the Twitter. It's at the real Ned Kaish.
On the Twitter.
Feel free to follow, and Duke UNC. I'm sure I'll be throwing out some retweets and maybe even a couple of my own thoughts if I get frustrated enough. Is generally how that goes. Yeah,
get frustrated enough and get a couple beers in you.
That's the perfect. Start coaching from Twitter and see if anybody
start
pays attention to me.
From Twitter. Hey man, hey! If you do that,
you never know.
Yeah, you never know. You might be brought on as like the film guy at Duke.
Exactly. Hey, no complaints about that at all.
Yeah. Then we can't use you on the podcast anymore. So,
that's true.
We'll take care, Ned, and thanks for being on the show today.
Absolutely, Alex. Have a good one.
All right, you too. Like I said when I had Ned on the show, we are recording this show on a Wednesday. So, whatever happened with Duke, North Carolina happened. And since this show is an on-demand, pre-recorded type of a show, and podcasts are like that, that's probably one of the great things about podcasts. The other great thing about it is it's not a live show. So, so if the content seemed off, if you're listening on a Thursday or a Friday or whatnot, you're going to know the score faster than we're going to know the score on a Wednesday at 1:01. So just want to let you guys be aware of that. But hopefully you guys enjoyed Duke, North Carolina, or enjoying taking a break from NBA action. Atlanta United has a big game that they're playing. Playing some international team. I'm looking this up right now. Yeah, playing Central America, so should be fun. It should be fun for Atlanta United, and with that, this is the ATL Boxscore podcast, and just want to thank Ned Kaish for coming on the show, as always, on a Wednesday, talking college basketball. Also, too, want to thank Steve Choi for being on the show, and just enjoy talking to him, just chatting it up about Chick-fil-A and stuff. So, like I've mentioned throughout the show, we are on social media, so you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Also, too, we are on the main podcast platforms with Google Play and iTunes. So, wherever you're listening to this, be sure to hit the subscribe button, because that way you can get the ATL Boxscore as much as you want to listen to us. So be sure to hit that. Also, too, the thing that could help us out the most, if you hit that like button or the ratings button, if you give us a high ratings, that will definitely help us out, because we're trying to reach as big of an audience as we can, and that will help us out. Also, too, good reviews also help, but that also helps with our bad reviews also helps. So hey, any attention is good intention, especially in this industry. But yeah, be sure to comment on the comment section, because what we're going to try to do here is just start a community and start people talking about their opinions. I wish we could get to the point where we could get calls in, have it like a call-in show, sort of. I think that'd be cool. Just that we can't have guests come on and just rant and rage for 30 minutes, so we have to like kind of cut that down a little bit. And so yeah, good things are happening here, and soon we will be talking about Atlanta United, probably on that Monday podcast. But this is our college basketball podcast. We have Football Friday on our Friday show, and so just stay tuned for the Football Friday, because if you're wondering, if you're wondering what's going on with the NFL, or you want to hear some NFL talk or some talk about the AAF, Alliance American Football League, then that's going to be on Friday's show, so stay tuned for that. Thanks for listening, guys, especially if you're listening to this part of the show, and I hope that you had a great Wednesday and that the middle of the week is finally here. So hopefully this Wednesday has been great for you. So with that, episode 31 is out.